from the News Channel 5 Network. This is OpenLine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to OpenLine. Glad you're with us. Very important discussion tonight. We are talking about the redevelopment that is going to take place and is really beginning to take shape of the East Nashville area, the whole East Bank area. There's going to be a massive new development there. Things are going to change enormously. And so we're on the front end of that. Right now, that's an industrial area. It's going to become a residential area. And there's concern about how is that going to shape up? Will there be affordable housing? Those kinds of things. We have with us tonight two people who are very focused on that, very concerned about that. With Stand Up Nashville, someone with a labor union, someone with Stand Up Nashville themselves, David Rutledge, Nate Carter. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I feel like you can help set this up even better. But what we are talking about, there's going to be a huge change over there on the East Bank, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're with Stand Up Nashville, you're with a labor union. I'm going to ask you about Stand Up Nashville in a moment, but big picture, what's about to happen there on the East Bank?
It's going to be a lot of displacement, honestly. We're worried about families who are going to be displaced, kicked out of their area that they've been in for 20, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, or however long. And the people in the city need to know what's actually finna go on. David, you can speak on it a little bit more if you want to.
Sure, yeah. I mean, we're talking about an area of the city that has historically been a working class area. Obviously it's been changing for decades now. It's become a very mixed income area, and that's something that we should be celebrating, right? As far as the East Bank itself, the area around the Titan Stadium, I think we all acknowledge that that's an underutilized stretch of land, right? Like, that's some of the most valuable real estate in the state, if not the whole country, right? We all know that something needs to be done with it, but we want to make sure that whatever happens there is done in a way that's good for all the residents of the city, that's something that working class people can afford to live in and enjoy, and that the jobs that are created in that process are good jobs.
So Nate, tell us what Stand Up Nashville is. You've been on the show several times, but I want to just define Stand Up Nashville.
Stand Up Nashville is the voice for the people in the city of Nashville. A lot of people in the city of Nashville can't come on here and talk to you and get their message out and be heard. We have a lot of public engagement, a lot of canvassing that we do around the city, and we talk to actual people, not like corporate America where they sit behind the walls and say, hey, we're going to do community engagement and set up a tent and don't talk to nobody in the actual community. We actually get real data from people because we actually go out there and knock doors and host fish fries and things of that nature to get actual feedback from the people in the community.
So you're very focused on this, and you're under the Stand Up Nashville umbrella, but you're with a labor union, right? And kind of where are you coming at this from?
Sure, yeah. So my union, the Laborers International Union of North America, Local 386, which is based up in Madison. We represent construction workers primarily. We also represent about 600 people at Vanderbilt University, and so these are, in fact, there was one of our members who used to live at the River Chase Apartments that's currently being demolished, and those residents have been displaced. So we're here representing the interest not just of the construction workers that are going to be building what's happening, but also the dining workers, the janitors, the maintenance workers who keep our city running and keep our great institutions running. We want to make sure that the city continues to be a place that they can afford to live and work.
There's a lot about this development we don't know. We know it's coming. We know, Nissan Stadium will be different. We know that's going to be part of it. There's a lot we don't know, but there is the River Chase Apartments that you just mentioned. That is already beginning, right?
Yes,
and
sir.
you feel like that sets a precedent for the rest of the development that will take place after it. Mm-hmm. So tell us, it's been in the news, but tell us about your concerns about River Chase and what's at stake with River Chase Apartments.
Well, what's really at stake is we let an out-of-town developer from Austin, Texas, Korea, come in and buy the property for $30 million. And they're setting they say they're setting the precedent of doing a certain standard, but it displaced a whole lot of families. The things that we're dealing with these families is you have to have first month, last month, and a security deposit to relocate. Most of these families made $25,000 to $30,000 a year. So a lot of these families have been broke up, displaced from families, kids staying over at grandmothers, uncles, and cousins' houses, and they're staying in Clarksville, Gallatin, Columbia, Tennessee, and things of that nature. These are things that are not spoken of and putting a light on. A lot of these families don't have transportation to and from work. They relied on the bus line to get there. So it is a lot of families, 177 families to be exact, that are going through a crisis right now. You have certain families that live in the hotel rooms. They can't pay hotel fees because this developer say, hey, we're gonna put you up in a hotel room, and they reneged on that. So like I said, we have conversations with these people, and their voices are not being heard of what's going on.
So there were 200 units there, 200 units at River Chase Apartments. It's now being demolished.
Yes, sir.
People have been displaced.
Yes, sir.
And they want to build, the new developer wants to build something with 1,150 units. So much bigger. And a different clientele, I guess. Right?
Oh, a whole different clientele.
Sure. Yeah, I mean the developer has promised some quote unquote affordable units at the site, but you'd have to make $75,000 a year to actually be able to afford those affordable units, right? And so, our question is, like, you might brag about creating affordable housing, but who is it affordable for, right? I happen to live directly next door to the River Chase Apartments, and I'm watching those buildings come down every day. And, myself and my neighbors are also concerned about the density that's going to be coming to that neighborhood. A lot of us were willing to go along with what was happening over there if it was going to be a situation where the residents that had been displaced are going to be able to come back. But we don't feel like that's going to be the case. And so, you're talking about you're basically, 5 times the number of units that are going to be over there that are only affordable to, folks working for Oracle or people who are coming in from out of town, which is something we've all been dealing with already. So to the neighborhood, it's one of these situations like, well, who is this being built for, and who's going to benefit from it? And it doesn't feel like the people of Nashville are going to benefit.
Even before the call, before the call, I was talking to one of your coworkers. She can't even afford to come and stay in Nashville right now. So we have to understand that this is a fight for everybody.
And so how does this fight then manifest itself? I mean, what you have is a private company that's come in. They spend a lot of money for very valuable land. They want to get the most they can out of it. That sounds like capitalism, and sounds like what companies do and what capitalism is all about. What power do you have? Are you in meetings? What can you do about this situation?
So we was actually in negotiations with the developer Korea about a CBA agreement, a community benefits agreement.
Community benefits agreement.
Yes,
okay.
Sir. And we wanted a certain standard. And when we brought that certain standard to them, things kind of went sideways. But hopefully we can get things back together. But we tried to get the AMI under 60%.
And what is AMI? What is that?
Area median income.
Okay.
And that's what Dave was talking about earlier. The area median income in Nashville, Tennessee is $96,700 for a family of 4. So you think most of those people that left River Chase, most of those were single parents, single mothers. They won't be able to afford that to come back. So we've been in negotiation with them. We've been in talks with them. So hopefully we can sit down with them and get things squared away.
And I guess the power, the leverage that we have in this situation is that they need to get their zoning changed in order to build the buildings that they want to build. And fortunately, we've got a Metro Councilman, Sean Parker, in that district, who's deferred the rezoning several times and hopes to see a successful agreement that's going to actually do good for the community come together, right? And so, that has been what the developer's been waiting for in order to do what they want to do. And that's where we've inserted ourselves into this process and are trying to come out with something that's good for the whole community.
So they need the zoning change to build this big facility, apartment complex, and you're hoping that you can use that leverage. The council will back some agreement that you all come to. There's a precedent for this, right? Wasn't this something like this happened with a soccer stadium? And were you part of that? Stand Up Nashville was part of it.
Stand Up Nashville was a part of it, but David was really a part of it. And when we got out of that soccer stadium, we got 120 affordable units, actual affordable units, not some workforce development. When I say workforce development, that means that's 80 to 120% of the AMI. So you're talking about 75 all the way up to $105,000 of what you have to make for workforce housing. Like I said, the people in the city of Nashville, we're averaging $36,000 a year, working class people. So if we don't do something about getting affordable housing in the city of Nashville, we won't have any affordable housing in the city of Nashville, period, for anyone. And just like I just said earlier, I was just talking to one of your coworkers. They can't even afford to live in Nashville. They stay outside of Nashville and drive to work. So we have to set a precedent on what we want in the city of Nashville.
And what would you like to see? 1,100? Well, let me go back to the soccer stadium. Do you think that was successful? And is there a framework that you could take from that to apply to this?
And that's precisely what we did when we approached this set of negotiations. Was we took the lessons that we learned, we took the example of what had happened between Stand Up Nashville and Nashville Soccer Holdings in the negotiations for the community benefit agreement there. That was an agreement that guaranteed good jobs on the development surrounding the stadium. It guaranteed, like Nate said, affordable housing in the area surrounding the stadium. It included child care facilities on the site. It included spaces for small businesses, local small businesses, to grow in the footprint of the soccer stadium. And we all love the soccer stadium, right? We all love what's happened there. And that was something that was negotiated. The Nashville Soccer Holdings is largely owned by the Ingram family, who've been in Nashville for a long time. And that was something where they're benefiting from this, right? They're able to be the developer of this property. They're reaping enormous benefits from this development, but so is the community, right? And it doesn't have to be one person wins and somebody else loses. Excuse me. It can be something where both the community and the people with the money can benefit, and that's what we're trying to have happen here at River Chase.
So when I see 1,150 units, if 10% of those, or 20%, 10% would be 150, 20% would be 300. Is there some negotiation like that? Let's make a certain percentage.
That's right.
Yeah, we actually did. We tried to get the percentage down to like 20% of what they was building, and what we kind of bumped heads on a little bit is the units that they were actually building. They say they're building 100 affordable units, and we was trying to get the AMI down on the 100 affordable units that they said was affordable, but it was workforce units. That's what I said. It was going to be 80 to 120% of the AMI.
And what you're talking about there is just the definition of what's an affordable unit, right? They're saying an affordable unit, you could make X amount of money, and you think that's too high.
We know that's too high.
You think an affordable unit should be more affordable.
There's people who've been displaced from River Chase, like Nate said, who make $25,000 a year. And so the idea that something that you have to make $75,000 a year to afford, like, those individuals cannot return to that, right? And the developers made some promises about parceling off some of the property and letting a strictly affordable housing developer do that. But we've, even in the same district, in District 5, we've seen examples where under the previous councilman, there was a development off of Trinity Lane, right at Trinity in Ellington, that was redeveloped, and the promises were made, there's going to be some affordable housing done on a section of this property. And while the market rate units are basically out for bid right now, the buildings are built, the affordable area is just a plot of dirt, right? And so that's why we're saying the developer themselves needs to be the ones making these affordable units, because we can't rely on promises to do something in the future. Our experience is that those promises don't really materialize.
Is your goal to have the people that are living there now be able to afford to buy one of these new places? Because they might argue, the developer might argue, these are going to be brand new, they're going to be super nice, and it's going to be different, it's going to be more expensive than what was there.
We want them to be able to rent it, not buy it.
They're going to be rental units.
They'll be rental, right?
They're going to be rental units. So we want them to be able to come to return. A lot of those people over there were on Section 8. Make them Section 8 approved. Whatever they left out on, let them come back on. If it was $1,100 a month for a 3-bedroom, let them come back for the $1,100 a month 3-bedroom. These are on the 100 units that you're saying that you're making affordable, not the other 970 units that you're going to make your money off of. We're just talking about the 100 units that you're going to build. Not the 120 units that's make-believe that we don't know what's going to happen to them, because it'll be the same thing like off of Trinity Lane. You say, hey, we're going to give this 120 units partials for somebody else to build, and it's just a pile of dirt and it never gets built. So we have to negotiate on the 100 units that we know that you're saying that you're going to build.
And so how would you say negotiations are going at this point?
We have another round of meetings coming up. So hopefully we can get a better understanding of what we both want. When you're talking to developers and their lawyers tell you in your face that, you know, people are qualified, they just won't be able to, they just won't meet the requirements. I mean, you know, that's a hard pill to swallow, you know, when you're fighting for the people in the city of Nashville and you're not from Nashville. So when you tell me something like that, that kind of gets up under my skin. So you're telling me that these people meet the qualifications, that they just won't be able to come back. They just won't be able to return.
And you said this kind of at the start, but I'm going to ask you this, then we'll go to break. Then I want to take calls. We already have a few calls. What's at stake here? There's going to be this massive development. This is really the first. Mm-hmm. So you feel like this sets a precedent, right? I mean, there's a lot at stake with this one development. Is that mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why fighting so hard on this one?
I mean, part of it is because the community was aware of what was happening there and got engaged, and I would encourage anybody in this city who sees development happening in their neighborhoods to get engaged and become involved in what's happening and not just let it happen, right? But, you know, neighbors were paying attention to what happened. Community organizations like Nashville Organized for Action and Hope, or NOAA, were paying attention to what's happened, and they got engaged way early in this process to say we want these units to be affordable. We want the people to be able to return. But, you know, it is definitely, even though it is not part of the so-called like East Bank footprint that the planning department and the administration have been talking about, it's directly adjacent to that area. And we believe if we let developers have their way on this, then how are we going to stop them from having their way on the rest of the hundreds of acres that are being redeveloped on the East Bank? We want to make sure that this is something where basically the people of Nashville are putting their feet down and saying, this has got to be done for everybody. This has got to be done for the people of Nashville, not for the enrichment of developers and their investors.
All right, fascinating discussion. Okay, David, Mike, others, hold on the line. If others want to call in, there's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.